Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Open Up the Workforce, where we speak with leaders driving the future of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. I'm incredibly excited to be joined today by Lindsey Lang, the Vice President of People at Southwest Airlines. Lindsey leads the People Department and is responsible for developing and executing Southwest's HR strategy in support of the overall business plan. Lindsey, will you share with our listeners a little bit more about yourself and your career story?
Yeah, thank you so much, Ahva, for having me today. I have been at Southwest almost 22 years, so started my career here at Southwest Airlines and started in the People Department. So I like to say I grew up in the People Department, and it's just been an incredible ride. So I started as a coordinator in our talent acquisition team, booking interviews, scheduling background checks, and got to do that for a while and spent the first half of my career in talent acquisition, recruiting for pretty much every business customer in Southwest. So that was a great way to just learn the business, learn both the operations and business side of the airline, and then had the opportunity to move to our HR business partner team. And so supported our technology department and our CIO as their HR business partner and learned a lot there, got a lot of exposure to just different aspects of HR that I hadn't maybe had the experience in talent acquisition. And then here I am 22 years later, getting to lead the department that I've been able to just grow up in and support. Watch as we've grown as a company. We've basically, I would say, tripled in size since I started in 2001. And so to be a part of that journey and welcoming new hires in and making sure that they feel cared for and developed has been really just such an honor. So it's been a year in the vice president role, and excited to just continue to lead the people department. We've got a ton of growth coming for Southwest Airlines and lots of hiring. And so we need to be intentional about that to preserve and protect our culture. So to get to do that every day is a pretty cool gig.
And that's incredible. And we appreciate you for sharing. I know when I think of Southwest, I think of smiling faces. And I think of when I go down the jetway and I see all the great pictures and posters, I feel like people is so much part of your culture, which I love. And I think it's a testament when you think about you being there for over 22 years, that shows success of retention and staying really loyal to an organization and growing with them. One thing that we're curious to learn a lot more about today is Southwest's approach to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So can you share maybe how Southwest has approached this and maybe any changes you've seen in the last 2 decades?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think you kind of touched on it. Our culture, a lot of that is about the people. And so in so many, you hear our CEO, Bob Jordan, speak, or the reference to employees, and that employees are what make Southwest Airlines. It's so important. And so our people department is charged with hiring in the right folks to continue to preserve that. And one of the favorite things I love hearing is when a new hire says, it is as advertised, the culture, the values, the things that you sold to me in the recruitment process. Like, I walked in day one and felt that. And that's a pretty cool feeling. And so I think that inclusivity and just that welcoming familial culture that we have has really just allowed for us to be a place of acceptance for our entire 50 years. Our one of our co-founders, Colleen Barrett, always has taught us to follow the golden rule and to treat others as we want to be treated. And so if that's the underpinning of your culture from the outset, then that just grows and evolves. And I think what you've now seen in the more recent, just last 5+ years, is us being intentional about making sure that we're bringing in diverse and different perspectives. And really, that's about mirroring our customers, the customers we serve and fly every day. We want our workforce to be reflective of that so that we can welcome and show hospitality to the customers we serve. And so I think it's really neat that Southwest just has this culture that kind of organically leads to that. And we're ready to bring folks into the family. And we're looking for folks that want to work in a place where it is about camaraderie, and it is about inclusion, and it is about working as a team to get the job done.
Absolutely. All those points are so powerful. And I appreciate the story that you shared with us about someone joining the team is it really is as it's advertised. That's such a special win. And so I'm smiling here. I know this is audio only, but I appreciate you for sharing that. And one thing I'd love to ask is how maybe you might approach this with maybe early talent. Here at Symba, we are really passionate about internships, apprenticeships, rotational programs. How might those pipeline programs affect the work that you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good example of just the intentionality that's required to, one, inspire folks to be interested in Southwest Airlines, but also in the field of aviation. There's a lot of neat jobs that come with working at an airline. And so we've been really thoughtful about making sure that we're reaching all the way down into elementary. So we have a K through 12 pipeline program that really focuses from elementary school to high school, both with high school internships. We have an Adopt a Pilot program. So we have our pilots teaching in elementary classrooms and just helping to kind of inspire and make sure folks understand the unique jobs that we have here at Southwest Airlines to offer. And so being thoughtful that by making folks understand the opportunities they have that early on, hopefully they get interested in, hey, it'd be really cool to be a pilot or a mechanic, or just come to be working at the airport for Southwest. So we've got a great high school internship program. We just did our interviews a couple of weeks ago and are excited for those students to start in the fall in a variety of our business areas. And then also really just trying to make sure that as we're reaching out to that group, that they understand the pathways to come work at Southwest. And that can come right out of high school, coming into some of our frontline roles, or that might mean that you need to go get a 4-year degree. And so how do we help you kind of find those pathways and that sort of thing? So we have a whole team dedicated strictly to pipelining and programming at the K through 12 phase and then at the college phase. So making sure that we're really targeting both of those groups, helping them understand the opportunities we have to offer here at Southwest.
That's incredible and amazing to hear that you go all the way to the elementary school level. And I think that when I think of young students, they're so excited about aviation. There's this really exciting momentum and the thought around being able to work in this field. I think that's really exciting. As a VP, how are you maybe thinking about the long-term impact and the success of these programs when you think about maybe the metrics and the data that you're trying to analyze and uncover to say, okay, this is worth the resources or we should reallocate? How do you maybe measure that today?
Yeah, I think the unique thing is that when we're reaching down to those levels, it's not about who I'm hiring today. I have a whole team focused on hiring the needs that we have for this year. But I also can see our growth plan for the company, and there's more airplanes on order and there's more cities to fly to. And so I have to think 5-10 years out. And so ensuring that I've got people that are interested and ready is the measurement. And so we've got a lot of great programs. By way of example, our D225 pilot program. So we are working with different pathways for folks to get their flight time and to accrue enough pilot and command time to come to Southwest Airlines. And that is a multi-year venture for them, but they get mentorship from our captains. We support them with funding. It's very expensive to become a pilot. And so we are mentoring and helping them along the way with that pathway. And that's not something that we're going to realize today, but knowing that we have those folks excited, already hooked into the Southwest network, being mentored by Southwest, and then that's who I'm going to hire in 3, 4, 5+ years. That's how we're going to measure success, is that then those folks ultimately become our pipeline. I think also just helping people understand that, it's really easy to say, oh, there's pilots and flight attendants at an airline. We also have an incredibly large technology department. We are a technology company as much as we are an airline, when you look at how many systems it takes to power this. And so helping people understand you can be an aviation enthusiast, but also if you're interested in tech, we've got great programs that are getting in our junior software engineers making sure that folks can come in both through the traditional 4-year degree path or even the non-traditional, maybe certifications in different ways to come into our technology department. And so making sure people understand that there's a lot of different roles here at Southwest. There's not just the classic roles you might see at the airport.
That's helpful to understand. And I think that especially with early talent, young talent, it's sometimes hard to see that bigger picture. But I truly appreciate your leadership and how you think about this 5-10 years out. I mean, that's when I think about true leadership and thinking about workforce development and pipeline creation. We need more leaders and executives to be thinking like you. So really want to appreciate and commend that in so many ways. And you've had an amazing impact on the community across the nation and globally as well. How do you maybe partner up with different partners in the space to drive diversity, equity, inclusion on a larger scale?
Yeah, I think that's one of the really neat things that I've seen work well here at Southwest is just the partnership with talent acquisition, right? I have a very specific mission, which is staffing and workforce planning and looking at that future. But there's other teams here at Southwest, specifically our community outreach and affairs group, that's looking to help us be the hometown airline for every city we serve and reaching out to the groups in the cities we serve that are important to whatever particular city that is. And then we've got our DEI team and those groups that are also interested in supporting all our employees in their interests. And so the three of us coming together and working collectively has been a really cool thing to see. So our community outreach team has got relationships in all our cities. And so that then in turn gives me hundreds of partnerships to reach out and say, how can I reach down into the community and help them understand the opportunities that we have here at Southwest? And so that's supporting the community we serve and fly to, but also then helping them understand the job opportunities that we have, not only in that location, but then more broadly at Southwest.
Wonderful. That's a very holistic approach. And with so many different types of roles and so many locations, I'd love to understand, how do you think about belonging and inclusion? How have you maybe approached that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one, it's about our core values. And we think here at Southwest about me, we, and team and how we get those things done. And so I think that at the end of the day, we all have the same mission, and that's to make sure that we are giving America the freedom to fly and supporting our customers. That is kind of the hallmark of Southwest Airlines, is that we opened up air travel to folks. And so that's what we're all doing collectively together, is to make sure that our passengers get where they want to be safely and with great hospitality. And so when you have kind of this galvanizing mission, I think that helps with a sense of team. The other thing, though, is that we're looking for that Southwest fit, which is delivering great hospitality, working hard, and having a servant's heart, and kind of leaning towards others. So thinking of others ahead of self. And so those are the common things that bring us together. There are also all the unique things that we're hiring for. I love how creative we let our flight attendants be. Hopefully you've been on one of our flights where somebody sang a song or made the PA their own, and we're looking for that great attitude, and that can be somebody that has that great outgoing personality and that sense of humor, or it can be that person that's a little bit more quiet and reserved, but they're bringing themselves to work, and because they can do that, they're then delivering great customer service. And so I think that by looking for those things in the hiring process, we've got the things that knit us together, that are our values. And then we have the ability to highlight those values in our own unique way. So I think that's what brings us together. Kind of, we call it the Southwest family. It really is a family that you come to work for.
That's really special and beautiful. And I feel like for Symba, we are a smaller startup, so we do embrace that in so much of the work we do. And it is sometimes, I'll say, like during the interview process, it can be challenging, right? Because we want to learn so much about people in such a short amount of time. Are there creative things you do in the interview process that you can share with us, that you understand maybe a little bit more about people's personality or their fun energy that they can bring?
Yeah, I mean, we really try to just keep the interview conversational and ask them just kind of open questions. But I mean, as simple as just tell me about a time where you had fun at work and what did that look like? Or as we're looking for lead, tell us about your team. Who are the people on your team? And it's one thing to say, oh, I know Jim and Sally are on my team. It's another thing to say, well, Jim has 2 kids and he loves to golf on the weekends and Sally's a gardener. And so you just start to hear how much they know and are invested in people. And do they know about the work or do they know about the person? And so that can come out just in the natural course of conversation. And when we don't hear that, it's a bit of a flag to say, you think about what we're looking for as a Southwest fit. And so just asking kind of some of those open-ended questions is usually helpful in what they say.
I couldn't agree more. And it lets them have space to share more about who they are and open up. So I appreciate that approach in so many ways. And as you're growing and going to more cities and becoming even more diverse, how is your approach to diversity, equity, and inclusion growing and manifesting in the next hopefully 5-10 years as you're growing?
Yeah, I think it goes back to intentionality and just recognizing that I'm really proud. We've hired over 20,000 folks in the last 12 months. And just you think about that, and that's 20% of the company. And so you're bringing in so many new perspectives, so many new, they haven't worked in the airline industry. They have new thoughts and ideas. And so just being thoughtful about bringing them in and being intentional about that. And so that's done in a number of ways through onboarding, but also just events to let them feel a part of the company. And that could be from a just local culture celebration in a city we serve. We also have larger kind of company rallies to bring people together, to let them kind of fellowship and just spend time together. And then there's also just ways that we're trying to make sure that through our employee resource groups and honoring, we just spent the month of March with Women's History Month and just different things, trying to highlight those things and bring employees together, both at the local level and the company level, to make sure that people have kind of those forums to feel accepted in. And I think part of that is intentionality. And another part of it is letting employees be owners of that. And so in our local cities, letting local culture committees and groups kind of decide what they want to celebrate and how they will bond together as that looks different in the communities we serve. And then as a company, we can provide the forums that kind of bring us all together as one big team.
I love that approach in a lot of different ways, because you are enabling those cultures to cultivate their community. And by giving your employees that power, you give them their voice as well in so many ways. And we know that you won many different awards at Southwest. And one of them that we saw was being a military-friendly employer. So we'd love to understand what support you offer for veterans.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're just really proud of the veterans that work for Southwest Airlines. And that's been just a proud part of our history for so long. For as long as I've been here, you wear a red shirt on Fridays, and they're called Red Shirt Fridays. And that's to honor both the military that are still serving here at Southwest Airlines and our veterans. And so it's just kind of ingrained in the culture to really recognize just how much they've done for our country and our company. And so we've got a couple of great pipelines. One, our D225 pilot program has a specific military pathway for aviators coming out of the military that maybe don't quite have the flight time needed to come to Southwest. So we're helping them bridge that. We also have a program with our technology team, so our Technology Warriors program, to bring folks in that are separating from the military and find them homes in our technology group. And then we also make sure that we have pipelines and ways for our military spouses to find. When you think about the nature of the military and moving around, they're moving to the cities we serve. And so how do we support those military spouses that may be looking for work or need a transfer with their military family member? So lots of different ways, but just, again, one of those things that just kind of is at our core of just making sure that we're supporting our troops and our military. And I can tell you countless stories of our own employees just recognizing their fellow employee as they're deployed, sending goodie bags, and just doing things on their own. It's not even driven by Southwest. It's just driven by our employees. And I think that just adds to them feeling included or knowing that we're thinking about them when they're deployed.
Yes, I would say that that's honestly true culture, right? When it's not necessarily driven from the corporate level, but you're seeing these beautiful interactions of your own team doing these things on their own. I think that's when you have a very powerful organic culture that has been created. So kudos to that. And I'm excited to ask you this question, and as the whole theme of this interview is around open up the workforce. And for us, we ask the leaders here what that means to you and what you think needs to happen. And this open up the workforce for us is driving equitable access to work and wealth creation for the long term. So I'll pass it back over to you, Lindsey.
Yeah. When I think about open up the workforce, it's making sure that people understand the opportunities and how to, and then the path to get to those opportunities. And I think we have a lot of unique roles in that we have pilots and mechanics, and it's a very specific role for the airline. And if you don't know how to get to those roles, it can be daunting. And so making sure that you back up and help somebody understand the path to getting to this career, and then also how unique and exciting and noble those professions are. And so to me, making sure people understand all the jobs that are available. So many of us grew up and it was like, well, I can be these three things, a doctor, a teacher. And so I think our job is to open up that aperture and make sure that all of the communities we fly to, that we're in, that we're out there, making sure people are exposed to the opportunities we have at Southwest. And it can be those technical roles like a pilot or a mechanic, or you'll look at so many of our senior leaders at Southwest Airlines today, and they started on the ramp loading bags. I started as a coordinator booking interviews and was able to grow up and gain experience and now have this amazing career at Southwest. And so my job and our job here at Southwest is to make sure that people know these are the opportunities. So come work here, not only for that job, but that career. And here's where that can take you. And then it's my job to make sure that we've developed and supported them in that growth while they're here at Southwest.
How powerful. I'm feeling incredibly inspired. How intentional, how holistic and long-term your leadership and approach to talent development and diversity, equity, inclusion is. And before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share, Lindsey?
No, I just thank you for the time. And I think this is an important topic for all HR professionals. But I think one of the things that I would just also say is it's an important topic for anyone in the professional world. Like, we all have a role to play in helping people understand the possibilities, or the possibilities that are to come. There's probably jobs we don't even know exist, but making sure people are interested in the field of aviation or whatever that field is, so that those folks are ready for the future it's important. So I'm glad you guys are doing the work that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lindsey. We couldn't agree more, and we feel so fortunate to have you on board. Thank you so much for joining us for our podcast, Open Up the Workforce.